he had gold. He had $1,000 worth of gold. I mean, if it was, every $35 you had was an ounce of gold. So if you had $350, you had 10 ounces of gold. You had something real. Today, if you have $1,000 or $10,000 or $1 million, it doesn't matter. You don't have anything. There's nothing behind it. And so if they can just create money out of thin air and spend it, it distorts the market, it distorts the economy, it leads to the malinvestments, it leads to the booms and busts, and ultimately it's going to end because the politicians are going to drive the currency into the ground. It's not going to have any value, and eventually we will go back to a gold standard, not because the government wants to, but because the people demand it, because the people are going to start transacting in gold. The reason that gold is money is not because governments wanted it to be money, it's because individuals making their own choices and trading with one another, they wanted gold to be money, and that's why gold became money. The government tried to decree paper to be money because it served its purpose, but it's an evil purpose, and we should resist it because it empowers government and minimizes and takes power away from the people. And I think that's what this end of Fed rally is going to be about that I'll be talking about in New York.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on us and other countries encouraging other countries in the world in general to increase their money supply?
Look, I think it's terrible. It's like we're the F student encouraging all the other students to cut class and smoke dope too. We want to bring down the curve. We don't want anyone else studying hard because it makes us look bad. But anyway, thanks for the call, Tony.
Thanks, Peter.
Let me go to David in New York.
Peter.
David, you're on the air. Hey, how are you?
Love listening to your show. And Coach, I have two questions for you. The first one kind of follows along with the last gentleman. Let's say we end up with some sort of universal currency or some sort of geographical currency, and when they revalue the commodities, what makes us think that the commodities will go up? I mean, if the government can just say, look, we're going to give you one of this new unit of money for 10 of your dollars, why can't they just say, well, gold will only be worth 200 or gold will be worth 1,200 or whatever?
The government can't, because if the government tries to set a price that doesn't represent the real market, then there's going to be a shortage or there's going to be a gold. So if the government tries to say gold is $200, then you're not going to be able to buy any gold because no one's going to sell it to you for $200. I mean, they can make a price at which nobody can buy or sell, but prices have to be determined in the market. The government just can't, decree it with an edict.
So, I mean, they can say, the price of gold will be this, but automatically the market would say, no, it isn't, and it would automatically jump up to where it's ever supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, what they could do, if we wanted to go back to a legitimate monetary system in this country where we still issued currency, but the currency was backed by gold, the government could do it. They would simply have to devalue the dollar substantially so that we had enough gold in Fort Knox. And I don't know what that exchange rate might be, but maybe it would be gold would have to be $5,000 an ounce. Maybe it'd have to be more. But there is a level at which the government can back the currency with gold. It's just going to take a much higher exchange rate for gold relative to the dollar.
And that's true with any commodity, basically, whether it's oil or corn or anything.
Well, they're not going to back. Look, corn isn't money. Oil isn't money.
Price.
Well, that's going to be determined. That price is going to be determined by supply and demand. So, depending on how much money everybody has, that's going to set the price for oil. I mean, if the government prints a lot of money, if all the governments in the world print money and hand it to people, they use that money to buy oil. What that means is the price of oil goes up because there's no more oil. If you just print money, right? And you don't drill any more oil, you've got a certain amount of oil and you got a bunch more money. The way the market clears is the price of oil goes up. What we want is we want money to stay scarce so it stays dear, so prices stay low, and we want supply of oil to increase so prices will fall.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Second question I have for you. If I was invested in an agricultural ETF, and I pulled out just recently because I saw that in their holdings they were collateralizing a lot of their holdings or futures with U.S. Treasuries, and I don't understand. What happens?
Well, the way that works is what happens is they use futures contracts, so they are derivative instruments, and the margin money they're holding in Treasuries. And obviously, if the U.S. government defaults, then that's going to hurt those funds. I don't believe the U.S. government is going to default. What I think the U.S. government is going to do is print enough money to make good, which is going to be very good for those commodities. The real risk that you need to think about in these funds is the counterparty risk, is the other side of that futures contract, is the exchange, or is it a potential AIG situation? There are all sorts of counterparty risks when you deal with these synthetic products, where your profit depends on someone else's ability to make good on its promise on the other side of that contract. But I don't think they're going to lose on the treasuries because they've got that hedge, because the treasury money is simply margin money for their commodity position. So if the government does what I think it's going to do, to print a lot of money, then the commodities themselves are going to go straight up. So these funds are going to do well. The question is, if they do so well, maybe the other side of the transaction goes broke and can't afford to pay on the contract. That's the risk. Anyway, thanks for the call.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, let me go to next. It's John in Sam in California.
Oh, hey, Peter.
Hi, is this?
Yeah, this is Sam. I just like to say, before anything else, I just think you're a patriot and what you're doing is great. And a little bit about me. I'm a senior in high school, and I've been following you and Ron Paul for well over a year now. And you've just really helped me develop an interest in economics and how it actually works. And I'd just like to thank you for that.
Yeah, what high school are you going to?
It's a private one in California, by San Jose.
Yeah, you get into arguments with your teachers?
Yeah, sometimes. Mostly mostly with my friends and stuff. I have some friends who are just they're sons of people in the financial business, and they totally have the whole Keynesianism, it's interest rate thing with the Fed, and it's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my question is, basically I've been talking with my dad for a while, and we don't agree on everything, but I've convinced him that the dollar is going to go down a lot in value in the near-term future. And he wants to invest with you, but he's kind of worried about brokers having incentives other than just the customer when giving investment advice. Could you just, I don't know, could you, talk about that or something?
Well, I don't think, obviously we get paid, a commission or a fee for our services, but, the brokers are, what we're trying to do, they're taking their marching orders from me, and basically people are calling up Euro Pacific Capital because they want to do what your father does. They want to get out of the dollar. They want to access foreign markets. They're looking for ways to preserve their wealth, to escape this inflation and this devaluation, and that's what we can help you do, and that is our goal. We'll be paid for it. We're going to be paid similar to what you would pay another brokerage firm for helping you to make your investments, but once the investments are made, the fees basically stop, and we can help your father select the right type of portfolio, stocks that we think will deliver solid dividends and rising dividends over time, and keep them invested in the economies that we think are doing it right, or at least less wrong by comparison, where their productivity will be growing and their currencies will be strengthening, and that's the goal. And so I think it's important that he move in that direction quickly. I think you're doing a good job in helping your father to arrive at this conclusion.
Okay, yeah, it's just because he's had brokers or something in the past who've had who he thinks have had split incentives or something. But anyway,
that's not going to happen at Euro Pacific Capital because I don't let that happen. Obviously sometimes there are conflicts of interest. Brokers can start over trading the account or trying to treat the account as a way to make money for themselves. That doesn't happen at Euro Pacific Capital. I don't let it happen. But also, we get so many new customers. There's so many people calling us that, my brokers are not in that position. A lot of brokers that are working on commission at standard firms, at the end of the month, when they haven't done enough commissions to make their mortgage payment or their car payment, there's a lot of incentive to do trades. That doesn't happen. I don't let my brokers overtrade these accounts. We barely sell things. Most of my clients who I bought stocks for 5 or 10 years ago, they still own those stocks, and they haven't paid a cent in fees on those stocks since they bought them. But we have so many new clients coming in that the brokers are never at a loss for new people to talk to, so they're never stuck. But I think a lot of brokers out there, they have a small group of clients, and they've got to transact, they've got to find things to do, and a lot of times they need money and they push their clients into expensive annuities with high front-end loads. We don't do any of that stuff.
Okay, cool, thanks.
All right.
Just one more thing.
Sure.
I know that you're not entirely sure about running for Senate or whatever, but I guess I just wanted to let you know that when the founders were originally creating the country and whatnot, they saw running for public office as something a person should not seek, but rather something